Hey, fifth graders, it's Mrs. Turner, and we are going to continue on with our standard, expanded, and unit form. So I have written two decimal numbers. So we have 5/10ths and 485 thousandths, and these are our decimal numbers, and we're going to compare the two. So we're going to compare them using either the greater than, less than, or equal to symbol. Now, these two numbers, this is how they're written in standard form, right? When we write it in standard form, that's just the numbers. So the number 0.5 versus the number 0.485, right? But we can also write it in word form or our unit form, which we would say this one is 5/10ths. I could say that this is 485 thousandths, or I could think this is 4/10ths, 800ths, and 5 thousandths would be another way to write that in word form. And then there's the expanded form, right? So we have 5 times a tenth for 5/10ths, 4 times a tenth, 8 times a hundredth, and 5 times a thousandth for expanded form for 485 thousandths. So we're going to use that place value chart in order to compare these numbers. Now, let's say that you were given 5/10ths versus this number, 4/10ths, 800ths, 5 thousandths. First thing before you go to the place value chart is you need to write it in standard form. Now, I've already written them in standard form, but if you were to get it in expanded form or unit form, the first step is to first write it in standard form. Since I already have it in standard form, then our next step, step 2, is to put it in our place value chart. So I'm going to start, since I see that there's 0 in the ones place, I'm going to have my ones, a decimal, and then behind the ones, right, would be our tenths, and then next would be our hundredths, and then smaller than that is our thousandths. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and place both numbers in my place value chart. And I'm just going to stack them, and that's going to really help me to figure out which one is bigger than the other. So starting with our 5/10ths, right, this 5 would go here. And then I'm done with that number. So now I'm going to go to 485,000. So here's the decimal. And then the 4 is in the tenths, the 8 is in the hundredths, and the 5 is in the thousandths. Okay, so just a reminder that in our place value chart, everything on this side is larger. So we're not going to worry about these two. We're going to look at this one, and we're going to decide what is larger, 5 or 4. Now remember that just like in front of this decimal, if I place zeros, it doesn't change my number, right? And if I was to put zeros back here, it doesn't change my number. So if I put zeros here, I have 0 hundredths and I have 0 thousandths. It also helps me to see that this 5/10ths is also equal to 500 thousandths. That would be another way to say that number, another way to write that number. And it's another way to see that, in fact, 5/10ths is more than 485 hundredths. So 5/10ths is more. So remember, the alligator wants to eat more. So the alligator is going to eat the 5/10ths. Right? We can think it's an alligator with its nice sharp teeth if we want to. And so then 5/10ths is greater than 485 thousandths.